Pavlichenko isn't just a soldier. My men are whispering her name when going into battle. Smile, Pavlichenko. Smile.
We're retreating. Do you hear me? Retreating! Our losses are huge! And you will be among them tomorrow!
War isn't only death. War is such a life. And if you don't find the reason to live for, you'll be killed. Luda,
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. As I promised, today I'm going to shoot the second video dedicated to the game Fortress of Sevastopol, a game designed by Christian Diedler and published by the German Udo Greb. I'm wearing the red t-shirt of my association, that is Casus Belli. Please remember that generally during the main Italian events dedicated to the board gaming, we have the habit to wear this, by now, legendary t-shirt. Well guys, let's go with Fortress Sevastopol. Well guys, in front of you the complete setup of the scenario, of the campaign scenario concerning Fortress Sevastopol. It took about 15 minutes to deploy all the units, and please remember that when you want to place the units, you have to pay attention to a number printed on the back of the counter that indicates the area where the counter has to be placed. Please don't confound with the other number that we have always printed on the back of each counter, that on the contrary points out the turn in which we have to place the counter. So I want to show you the difference. Well, we have two backs of the counter. Please notice on one side we have a number without a square, and on the other counter on the right we have a number surrounded by a square. So please remember this difference, and it's not so intuitive, the understanding of this difference. In fact, I made immediately a mistake at the beginning of my deployment. And what about? Well, at first I didn't say anything about the victory condition, and well, we have always each player has to reach a well-defined score. Only the Axis player may score victory points, and please remember that these victory points are recorded immediately when they are achieved or lost. There is also an automatic victory, and we can speak of an automatic victory when one side has fewer than 3 units on the map. But I don't think that this result is so likely. Then the most important thing that the players have to remember is that there is a band of VP numbers for each turn on the turn record track. And during the game turn indication phase, that actually it's the last phase of each turn, well, the players have to check the higher VP number. If the VP marker is 3 or more points above this VP number, well, the Axis player wins immediately. On the contrary, and the game if we don't have an automatic victory, the winner is determined at the end of turn 17. You have to check the VP number, and about the last turn we have a VP number of 15 points, and if the Axis player has more than 15 points, he wins. In the other cases, well, if he has 14 or fewer victory points, the German player loses. Otherwise, it's a draw. And how can you get the necessary points to win? Well, on the map, please remember that you have these red numbers surrounded by a rectangular, well, with a white rectangular, and these are the points that each player can get during the campaign. Well, guys, it's time to begin our game. Please remember that the first turn of Fortress Sevastopol, well, doesn't start with the Soviet operation phase. On the contrary, we have a special rule that we had to apply, and actually the German player has 18 free points that he can use to bombard the area 28, and this area is located in the northern part of the Crimean Peninsula. And I want to show you how the bombardment works. Actually, let's explain this impulse. We have 18 free points, and when you are bombarding, you have to add to the bombardment strength the dice rolls. So you have 7, so 18 plus 7, you get 25 points of bombardment. Also, the player, the defender, rolls the dice. And in this case, when you are bombarding an area, you don't have to consider the value of the defending units, but on the contrary, you have to deal with the terrain effect modifier. In this case, the area 28 has got 2 points. We have to double these 2 points. So we have 4 points on the defense value, and we have to add also 1 for each fresh field artillery. And in the area 28, we have another factor of 1 as regards the field artillery. So actually we have 5 points as defense value. I'm going to roll the dice. So we have 8 plus 6 equals 14, and on the contrary 25, the German player got 25 points. Actually, when you are bombarding, you have to think about these bombardment points as points of attrition. So if you subtract 8 plus, if you subtract 13 to 25, you get 12 points of attrition, and the Soviet player has to satisfy this loss. How can we resolve this loss? When you have to count the attrition points, you have to flip simply your units. I want to remind the players that each unit generally has got 4 levels of damage. Well, we have the first level is obviously fresh unit, and then you can be obliged to flip the fresh unit to its spent side, and generally you are in this way you are satisfying the required losses. So when you are applying the attrition points, well, each armor unit has a value of 3 attrition points, while on the contrary, the infantry units, the divisions, the Soviet divisions, and also other fresh units have a value of 2 attrition points. So by considering that in our area 28 we have 1 armor unit, well, let's flip the armor unit. So we have we have spent 3 attrition points. Then we have 7 other fresh units. So we have, I don't remember, 25, 12 attrition point. And actually we have to flip other, well, 1, 2, 3, and other 4 units. So 8 plus 3, well, and 5. So, well, that's all. Now we have satisfied, the Soviet player has satisfied the required losses, or better, the required attrition points. Well, guys, I have just analyzed the bombardment impulse, and please remember that this impulse is a sort of free impulse that the German player gets at the beginning of each scenario. On the contrary, generally it's the Soviet player that starts the game. And I want to show you the different types of impulses by analyzing the rules. I want to show you, well, if you notice, you have movement, bombardment, engineering, strategic movement, infiltration, reactivation, regroup, and pass. Actually, these seven types of impulses. Well, what about the movement? Quite simple. Please remember that unfortunately, and I don't like these modifiers. I find this movement impulse a little complex. Why? Because you have to remember a lot of different modifiers or different kinds of movement, and the same is about the bombardment value, but well, another complex phase, but not so complex. You have to consider a lot of modifiers, and the same is about when you are making an assault, attack value, defense value, a lot of modifiers, and that this excessive number of modifiers will make the game a little complex. It doesn't work. So I think that the designer did a very big job about the analysis, about the research of the several modifiers. But these modifiers make the game a little more complex. So try to remember that at the beginning, if you are new to the system, well, I suggest you to always hold in your hands the tables, the charts and tables concerning Fortress Sevastopol. And actually, I suggest also you to make a copy of your tables. Well, guys, the final part of my short explanation and introductory explanation to this area game system is about the assault. About the assault impulse. I want to show you how the assault impulse works. Well, actually, I have prepared an area here, the area number 10, where we have a terrain effect modifier of +3, and please remember that this area has got a value of 3 points. So actually we have 3 German units that are attacking 3 Soviet units. Well, generally, when you have to set an attack, you have to point out the leading unit. In this case, since the German player is attacking, I'm using as leading unit, well, the sorry guys, and this 436 German unit, this brigade, well, that has got a value of 4 points, and I have to add, by considering the modifiers that you have, I want to show you again the assault resolution modifier. You have to use this table, and you have to add +1 for each fresh unit. So actually we have 4, 5, 6. So the attack strength is 6 against, well, obviously you have, if you are the defender, you have also another leading unit, and in this case the unit is this division, the Soviet division, that has a defense value of 3. I'm going to show you 3. And you had to, at the same time, you had to add the presence of other fresh units. So 3, 4, and 5. So we have 6 factors against 5 factors. So actually, it's not a good attack, but I want only to show you an example about the way to conduct an attack. So you have 6 strength points. You have to roll the dice. You score 5, so 6 plus 5 is 11. On the defense, you have 3, 4, 5. You have to add also the terrain modifier +3, so 5, 8 plus, well, 8 and +4, 12. So you have exactly the same result. And when you have a stalemate, well, the active, pay attention, the active point unit becomes disrupt 1. All other units become spent, except, well, but this is not the case, supporting field artillery. There is no retreat at all and no effect on the defender. These rules also apply to city areas. So actually, well, these units are to be flipped. The same about Ziegler, but as regards Ziegler, the brigade, well, we have to use the disrupt marker. Let me take a disrupt marker. Disrupt marker level 1. Why? Please remember that each unit has got 4 levels, and disrupted 1, disrupted 2. So, well, I'm going to place a disrupted level 1. So, well, this was a very easy example of an assault impulse. Well, guys, and that's all. I invite you as usual, to set up the game, and then as usual, please don't read in a very precise way at the beginning all the rules. Set up the game, and please use the technique of skimming and scanning rules, and then try to understand the game by playing it. It's important, guys. It's a very, very simple game system by considering the areas where the possibilities that each unit has to move. But unfortunately, I find the number of the modifiers a little high. So this fact doesn't help the game. Well, guys, and stay tuned for the conclusion of this analysis of Fortress Sevastopol. Well, guys, we are at the end of our analysis about Fortress Sevastopol. Well, what can we say about pros and cons that we have found? First of all, certainly a positive feature is about the dynamic system. Well, we have alternate impulses, so this makes the playing well dynamic and more interactive. So this is certainly a positive feature. On the contrary, I don't like the excessive, the too high number of modifiers that the players have to remember when they resolve the attacks or the bombardments. So we can define the Fortress Sevastopol a game that is a little more complex than his previous brothers, that is, for example, Breakout Normandy and Storm over Stalingrad. And well, I think that the designer was really committed in making a very, very good historical research. But in this attempt, well, he didn't give room to the playability. Anyway, guys, please remember that this is only a starting review. I always recommend that to have a final comment, a final opinion about the game, you have to play it till the end. So I hope in the future to finish a whole game of Fortress Sevastopol and also giving you my final impressions. Thanks for your attention. Hope to see you in the next coming soon video, and I can anticipate that my coming soon video will be about a Polish game designed by Wojciech Zalewski. Well, for the moment it's all, and bye.